Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm Susanna Liller, and this is my video series on all things Heroine's journey. And today I have a particularly great guest, Danielle Snow. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Susanna.
I'm the word would be thrilled to introduce her, Danielle, to you because she has joined my school, the School for Real Life Heroines, as the director of operations for our little budding business here. And Danielle, let me just say that with you coming, I think it's going to be a lot more than a little budding business. I mean, it has been around since I started it under the name of Ruby Slippers in 2000, but it has morphed and morphed and morphed. And you are the most recent great addition to that morphing. So really welcome. Let me please allow me to say a few words about you, and then you can you can add in as you will. So Danielle is a fellow coach, and she is an executive coach. She and I both went through the same coaching school, the Hudson Institute of Coaching in Santa Barbara, California. So I'll say a little bit more about that later. She has a business, 75 Park, which I will let her tell you about, that she has established in Lewiston. Should I have said Auburn?
No, Lewiston is correct.
Maine, yes. Lewiston and Auburn, we call those our sister cities. And in Maine, we call them LA, but
The
Lewiston,
other LA.
pretty different from the one on the other coast. And she has really recently, with the establishment of this business, found her calling in helping businesses locally, and which is absolutely what she's doing. And I'm going to let her talk about that. But her coaching is nationwide. And the way we got connected was that she specializes in startups. And again, the latest morph to my business was starting this school for real life heroines. So when I heard startup, my ears picked up. But before we go further into the story of how we met and everything, what more would you want me to say about you and your business and who you are, Danielle? Besides that, you have two dogs.
I do have two dogs, and they're amazing. Ozzy and Addie. I love talking about them, so we should be careful about going there.
Okay.
So I would first just say thank you for having me, Susanna. I'm so thrilled both to have met you and to have been invited to join the school to have more of an impact and connect more with other heroines out there. And I hope that we'll talk about that word heroines.
We will.
As part of our discussion as well. And so I would just say that it's always really fun to meet fellow coaches. And it was, I think a near instant connection when the two of us met. And it came at a good time for me too, because I was just completing my coaching certification and was thinking about my journey and realized that while I had answered part of my call by kind of doing the coaching certification, getting into executive coaching, and really following through on wanting to help more people become the best version of themselves, both like in work and in life, I also realized that I really wanted to have more of a local impact and be able to really help to create a vibrant local community full of successful businesses, which led to the founding of 75 Park, which we just opened last week. So a lot of great things happening, and the heroine's journey, I think, was a big part of leading me to where I am today. So thank you.
So let's just take a minute and let me ask you to tell us what 75 Park is.
Yeah, so 75 Park is a business incubation and co-working space. We focus on working with both entrepreneurs who are starting out and trying to refine their ideas and figure out how to launch their new business. And we also work with existing professionals, small business owners, who are looking to grow their business. In 75 Park, we are providing office space or just desk space, depending on someone's needs. And we host a series of workshops and other events, really to help people have that supportive community around them so that they can learn from others' mistakes, they can celebrate their successes with others, and ultimately will be launching successful, sustainable businesses that will last well into the future.
The listeners, you can probably appreciate why I, having launched my School for Real Life Heroines 2 years ago as an online school with an online course, hearing what Danielle just said, why my ears perked up. I want to talk to this woman. So when we spoke first here in Brunswick, Maine, closer to me, I wasn't thinking more than just who is Danielle? I'd love to talk to her. Any opportunity to connect with another woman who's on a similar path, in this case, coaching, is something that I'm interested in. And we had a common friend back in the Hudson Institute, Tony McLean, who had written to you first, I think, Danielle, and said, check out Susanna. She's in Maine. Be a good person to know. So we met. And yeah, it just went from one thing to another. I realized that, well, and you were doing some uncoupling from the business that you had been in the healthcare business, included health for quite a while. And so let's just say that you had so much corporate and business experience working, having employees all from a few to, I think, even 1,000. So had managed a lot, had all that business experience. And so we began talking and began a friendship, and the course was launching, and we had an accountability groups, and you decided to be part of that and be part of really the first group cohort going through the accountability course for the course, which is all about the heroine's journey and how your life fits into that framework. And I guess, to be honest, to be transparent, I thought Danielle is corporate, more feet on the ground than you are, Susanna, even though I had been a professional coach, organizational development. In fact, what's interesting is as you were starting your coaching business, I was really ending my executive coaching business and going full bore into into the heroine's journey. But I thought, I don't know that this will be for Danielle, but you did embrace it and welcome it and learn from it. And so much so that when I asked you, would you have any interest in being a part of our small team, you agreed to be. And that surprised me.
Well, that's fair, because when I first, met you, I definitely thought, oh, Susanna's so much more spiritual than I am. And look at how peaceful she is. And how do I grab on, latch onto that and learn how to be more at peace in the world? But I would say about that, yes, you and I are very stylistically different. But that's one of my favorite things, frankly, about us and about kind of the friendship that we've developed and this working relationship that we're developing. And I think that's, an important thing, in the world at large. We're naturally attracted to people who are similar to us, but there's so much that we can learn from people who are different from us as well. And kind of taking those learnings from their different experiences and thinking about how they might relate to and how we might apply them in our own lives. And for me, going on the heroine's journey, I was admittedly a bit, skeptical and worried that it was going to feel a little too woo-woo and new agey, for me, and kind of made me, but what I ended up really loving about it was that it was a really different approach. And when you take different approaches and you do things that make you uncomfortable, you're really spurring growth in yourself. And by pushing through that discomfort, I discovered things about myself, like that I wasn't, yes, I was answering my calling, but I was being too cautious about it and only partly answering it in a way that felt less risky. And so could I, what did I really want to do? And how did I push how do I push the envelope to get there? And I think the heroine's journey really helped me to, in Susanna language, slay my dragons or face my dragons.
Come to understand your dragons. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
work with them versus, fighting them, minimizing them, taking my learnings from them, and then being able to move forward. And I think one of the other, kind of important things that I learned along the way is that the heroine's journey is just that. It's a journey. It's not a destination. You don't get through the heroine's journey and all of life's stressors and questions are now solved for you. You really accept and realize and see that it's a framework, a way that you can sort of think about and examine and reflect upon your life and where you're at and where you want to go. And it's something that you can do over and over again at different points in your life, to help you get clarity and figure out your path forward.
Because it's what I like about it, it's so well tested, kind of what the markers are that yes, you have to leave your comfort zone. Yes, you have to go into the unknown. Yes, good things will happen, bad things will happen, and it's all part of it and it's all okay. And so expect that. What's also great is that we get to go through it together if we share our stories and experiences. But I want to just get back to what you said about you realized you were kind of holding back, and what did you really want to do and what did you really want to put out there? And I think maybe, Danielle, that's one of the biggest gifts of the journey, is it encourages us to be bigger, to be who we are, and put that out into the world. Because for me, all my years, 25 of being in organizations, corporate, executive coaching, consulting, working with engineers, people who I never let out that I had this spiritual woo-woo strain in me. And so for me, it was, okay, what's your bigger self, Susanna? Letting it out. And so, but it's never easy, but which is why it's so good to have comrades on the journey. But I also,
Actually, can we talk about that for a minute too?
yeah,
Like, if you don't mind, I'm going to segue us somewhere.
okay, go for it.
Well, it's kind of, this talk about having community and comrades, like kind of along the journey. And that was in the beginning one of the struggles that I had thinking about the heroine's journey, because, you hear the word heroine and, you naturally relate it to hero. And one of the things that I really wasn't enjoying kind of in the corporate world, at least the corporate world in the startup world in which I was operating, was, I would say, the focus on kind of, the kind of singular, heroic, maverick style leader, that really was placing kind of so much value on like the individual and the individual's ability to lead and push an organization to where it needs to go. When in reality, there is always a whole bunch of people behind that leader, behind that hero or heroine, who are helping that person to get to where like they need to be. And so I was really kind of struggling like with this concept of the heroine's journey and thinking about it as being like very simple, like, okay, like it's the female version. And so it wasn't until we really got into the work together and I kind of gave it, and sort of took this chance to be uncomfortable and to learn what the journey was going to be like, that I really came to appreciate that it's not, it's not about, it's about a like different frame of mind and a completely different perspective. It's not about like, a person
Yeah.
conquering. It's more about tapping into a more feminine way, like of thinking. And I think in your, again, in Susanna language, the kind of sacred feminine that resides inside all of us, both men and women.
Mhm.
And it's, just a different approach, a different way of looking at things that embraces that communal aspect. And part of my calling was to really tap into that community. I think, like we rise and fall together. And I wanted to be part of a community that was working to lift everybody up. And I think that the heroine's journey is a great way to help frame that. And it's a really important part of like the work that how I think about coaching and my role in coaching, as well as how I think about how like 75 Park now supports and helps to lift up the Lewiston Auburn community.
Wow. I don't know. I think we could end it right there. So, thank you. So beautifully said. And I could go off into a thing about, yes, Joseph Campbell was the guy who really brought the hero's journey to the fore of in our culture, and how he's been recently kind of raked over the coals, even though he's dead, because who he lifted up were the mythic heroes, and they were all men, and that kind of got us focused on heroes are men. And I'm not going there
It's a
because,
whole can of worms.
but it's but I didn't want to give up the fact that women also leave their comfort zones in perhaps different ways, and they have callings like Danielle's, yours, to create a community, which is totally what establishing the School for Real Life Heroines is about. Every woman is a heroine. Always in your life, you can look back and see where you've left something that was comfortable, taken a risk, crossed a threshold, and maybe it's just reframing something in your mind. It doesn't even have to be a physical thing. So I think both of us, which is why we're together, I'm sure, want to encourage women to follow what their calling is, whatever it might be, and give them the tools to do that and to help them know they're not alone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that you're not alone for me is one of the most important parts, because taking that leap
right,
is crazy scary.
right.
But knowing that there are other supportive women around you who have already taken theirs or considering taking one as well, that community is incredibly helpful to help you feel brave enough
Right.
to do it, to know that there is a group of women who is there to catch you and to support, if you fall, and to lift you back up so that you can continue along on the journey.
Exactly. And to be able to say, no, that's not weird. It's not, don't compare. What you're wanting to do is just right. And yeah, and I think too, we have this instinct to say, oh, well, what she did was that's really kind of like a heroine, but me just leaving this or starting, that's not heroic. Well, it is. And I think part of our job is to help that women see they are bigger than they realize they are.
It's true. And honestly, I think it's important to realize too that like sometimes just getting out of bed in the morning is heroic. You don't
Yes.
have to save the world. Just
Yeah.
getting out of bed some days is okay.
So true. So true. I just was talking with the heroine who said, initially for me, it was just if I made the bed in the morning, that was something. Well, I want to make sure that people know that you have contributed, written the blog that will be in the newsletter that's coming out. So if they're connected to hearing this, and then on my email list right now, it's mine, susannaliller.com, you will get the newsletter and read, or just go to the website and read the blog. And we will be doing more together. We'll be doing our podcast together. So more, you will see much more of Danielle, which I couldn't be more excited about. So thank you again for meeting with me that day in Brunswick as we had coffee and letting this unfold as beautifully as it has, Danielle.
It's been truly my pleasure, and a special thanks to Tony McLean for putting us together.
Yeah. Someday we're going to be there with her, giving her a hug in Santa Barbara saying thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And as we sign off, Susanna, I do want to say also to your followers and to members of the Heroines journey, I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you, mostly virtually, some of you in person. But please know that I love to interact. And as I get more involved in the school, please don't hesitate to reach out directly, because it's hearing from members, from other people on the journey, that really is like so inspirational, about this work and about continuing to push it forward.
To that note, and then we will bring things to a close. So people listening today want to get a hold of you, Danielle. How do they do that?
Yeah. The best way to get a hold of me today is to email me at 75 Park. And so that email address is Danielle, DANIELLE, at 75 PARKST.com.
EARKST. Okay.
And that's because 75 Park is on 75 Park Street in Lewiston.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for listening, taking the time to hear about what's happening in the School for Real Life Heroines. And I hope you'll tune in to our next video, and I'll see you there.